Spotlight video. And you're on, Heather.
Okay,
Thank
great.
you so much.
Thank you, Angie, for that. Is it my turn?
Yes, it's your turn.
Awesome.
Thank you for being here.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for having me, Angie, and to the Texas Lettering Arts Council for hosting this event. I'm very excited. I have to say I'm also very nervous. Although I've worked virtually for 3 years, for some reason when I get in front of calligraphers, because I put you on such a high pedestal, I get really anxious. And I think you can ask Carol Dubois about that and our experience at Seattle Letters, me graphic recording in front of everyone. So we have a question in the chat already, is where I'm from. And right now I live in Durango, Colorado. I'm in my studio where I teach a lot of my online lettering classes from Let's Letter Together. And I would like to share my screen now and just get started. Looks like you disabled screen sharing, so I'll need you to help me with that, Angie. But I'll share my screen in just a second, and it's got our my presentation in it. So good to see everyone. Again, if you want to change your name, you can hover over your picture in the upper right-hand corner. There's a little ellipsis, and there you can drop down to rename. And if you just put your name and where you're from, it could be your state or your city or your country. And then that way, if you type anything in the chat, we can see where you're from. It's an easier way to get to know where people are from. So thank you for giving me sharing rights, and we'll get started. So really excited to be here today. This is really the high-level overview of a workshop that I'll be teaching on May 16th called Learn to Sketchnote, and that's being hosted by the Colorado Calligraphy Guild. And I know that some of you are on the call today, so thanks for joining us. Today, big welcome. I'm so excited to be here, and want to just let you know that today we're going to be talking about page composition, some of the tools of the trade. I'll be sharing my genesis story, the existing skills that you actually already have because you may already be a sketchnoter and not even know it. I'll explain what sketchnoting is and why is it beneficial, and then some tips for working live. And then we'll do some quick next steps. But what I'd like to do is remind you that if you have paper and pen in front of you now, you can get started sketchnoting at any time. So we're going to get started right now, actually. And Angie, if you can just help me field questions in the chat, that would be super, if there are any. And if you have a question, it's good etiquette to type question really large. Oops, I think I sent that to somebody
Or
else.
you can precede it with 3 or 4 question marks, which might help you.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, let's do it that way because it's a lot easier to type than type out the word question in all caps. So just, 3 or 4 question marks, that'll help us look at the chat and see if you have questions right away. So this is the same information that's on the page composition handout. It's a PDF that was in a link that was sent, the corrected version, the very last email that you received from Angie. So if you don't have it, don't worry, you have it here. And so you can refer to the one that you've printed out, or if you have it on screen, that's great. And these are the 4 different types of composition that I normally use when I'm sketchnoting at a calligraphy workshop or class. And so you'll see from left to right, we have a letter form layout. And what that means is I'll write the title of the class, maybe I'll write the instructor and the location across the top. And then I'll take a gray marker or maybe a pencil, and I will literally draw in guidelines, especially if the instructor has given you the nib scale or the pen scale and any other information. This is a great way to just reproduce that. And then along the bottom, and you'll see this on several of these, I'll put the date and the page number because sometimes I do several pages of Sketchnote, and also my social media handle. Now, why do I put all of that information there? Why do I need to know it? Because it's good to know what class did this information come from. But honestly, when I stand in Sketchnote, when I'm in a workshop, I get a lot of people that ask if they can take pictures of my notes. And I don't have a problem with that. I'm happy to share. But if they ever go out into the world and live somewhere else, it's just nice to put my name on it. And a social media handle is a great way to do that. It's short, and maybe somebody will look me up and see some of my other sketch notes. The next one is a step-by-step journey. This is great for if someone's explaining how to do something. If the instructor is explaining a technique, it's great to do it in this fashion. It almost looks like a journey in a way, and you can number them steps 1, 2, 3, 4. Again, all of the pertinent information is on there. And then the third one is the key takeaways. So the last two are ones that I would encourage you to try today. So whatever tool you're using today, you might draw a picture of it up one side just to give the page a little bit of a visual. Write down the title. The title of today's is, I think, the Sketchnote, a sketchnoting mini session. You can also write Learn to Sketchnote if you want, and my name, Heather Martinez. And then just in the gray, that's just sort of a template, meaning you might use a pencil or just think that's where you're going to have your borders a little bit. And on the left, you might make some drawings or some detailed notes. And then on the right, you might use a bullet point or a check mark or some kind of small image to kind of create those bullet points that could be key points, high-level takeaways, and things that you just want to remember. And then finally, there's freestyle. And of course, I just threw in a banner at the top, but you can make any type of title or a way to just make sure that the top is really says, oh, this is what this class is about. It might be some drawings or something, and it's all open space. So it's kind of a freestyle approach. So what I'd like you to do is go ahead and choose one of those. And I'm going to share my my desktop now. And when I say my desktop, I don't mean my desktop of my computer. I mean my actual desktop. So this is, you should be able to see my hands. Angie, if I can get a thumbs up, can you see my hands? Awesome. Okay. And so while you're deciding what your page composition is going to be, go ahead and you might take a pencil or you might take a pen. The reason why I would do this in pencil is because I might want to break the border, right? So go ahead and decide how are you going to lay this out. You don't have to copy me. You can lay it out however you want, because what I'm going to share with you over the next 45 minutes to an hour is really going to be what you're going to sketchnote. Okay. So you'll just want to take a moment, think about which composition you want to use, and then we'll go from there. So I'm going to go back to my PowerPoint presentation so that you can see that. And so I want to talk a little bit about what are the tools that we commonly use. And I love this slide. It's from my book, Lettering Journey, and you'll see the 6 top tools that are there. This is a photograph from Carol Dubois. She taught in one of the courses that I offered a few years ago called Lettering with the Masters. And I asked her, what tools are you going to use for your session? And she sent me a picture of these 6 tools. And I said, that's perfect, because the 6 tools below them in markers, we can translate everything you do into markers as visual practitioners. So I'm a visual practitioner, and that means I use great big markers and some small markers to take essentially large scale sketch notes. And this might be a great time, Angie, to talk a little bit about the giveaway that we're going to have today. So for those of you who are staying at the call, by the end of the call, and yes, you're welcome to take pictures if that helps you learn. I want you to know that I'm going to be giving away 3 bags that are Neuland bags. And what's Neuland? These are going to be some of the tools of the trade that I'll be using today. And these are sketchnoting markers. So we've got a big art marker with a brush nib. It's kind of, oops, here we go, with a brush nib. And then we have some smaller brush nib markers. Actually, there's a round nib and a brush nib there. And then we have a monoliner, okay? So we'll talk again a little bit more about tools, but just have on hand a pen. It could be a monoline pen, but brush markers are really nice to do colors and things like that. So at the end of the call, we'll pick a couple of numbers and I'll put a bag full of markers in the mail to those who win. Yay. All right. So let me go back to my screen here. So you know these calligraphy tools at the top, but all of the tools that you have, I can translate those into the markers that we have, and these are called Neuland markers. All right. So this is going to be interesting. Let's try something. For everybody on the call, if you can just put down your pen for just a second, and if you can click the annotate button that should be on your screen. If you don't have one on your screen, don't worry, you can always put this in the chat, but I'm curious to learn what kind of hand or script do you has influenced your handwriting, just your natural handwriting. And if you're using the annotate button, great. Yes, you can definitely circle it. You can also click the stamp tool and you could put a heart, a check, an X, something like that, a little scratch. I love it. And if you put other, I would love for you to either type or write in what's the other thing that influences your handwriting. These are great. Maybe it's uncial, I don't know. Maybe foundational, humanist. Yeah, great. I'm seeing a lot of italics, right? Oh, this is such a great visual. So as a visual learner and a visual thinker, this is such a great tool. Thanks everybody for trying that out and for using the chat room too. Good. We're seeing a lot of uncial and italic, Roman, copperplate. Awesome. Yep. Uncial. Good.
The
Okay.
annotate choice is under view options. So actually, there's a little menu bar that's right below where it says at the top of the screen, it says you are viewing Heather, Colorado's screen. So right below that, you should see your menu bar. If you don't see a menu bar, then you can go under view options and select from the contextual menu, select the annotate option, and that should bring them up.
Oh, this is awesome. I'm loving I am loving seeing everybody circle it. That's so great. I've never seen this before. That's awesome. Okay. Thank you, everybody. I am going to take a picture of this screen because this is super. That's a lot of circling. And if you don't know what to use or you don't know what influences you, that's totally okay. Oops. That's okay, not a problem. Just wanted to give you an opportunity to take a look at that. I'm gonna save this and then you might see a little window come up. Oh, this is getting nuts, and then I'll clear it. Okay, thanks everybody for checking it out and for drawing too. It's really, I think it's exciting to see everybody respond in that way. All right, so I want to talk a little bit about my Genesis story. So how did I get started in sketchnoting? And you're welcome to take these notes as well if it interests you or if it's something that you just want to take your hand at sketchnoting. And we'll get into some more sketchnoting techniques in just a moment. But this all started at a show of hands. It was my first calligraphy conference. So I want you to think back at your first class or workshop or calligraphy conference, or shall I say, think of the first one where you had a great positive experience. And for me, I thought I was just going to go to the calligraphy conference and drink tea and make letters. I mean, I didn't know anybody there. I was the only person. I knew no one at the conference. I was a total newbie. And though I had taken a couple of calligraphy classes before, I certainly didn't consider myself as a calligrapher. I was a complete newbie. But the one thing that I could bring with me was, well, I'm going to take sketch notes, and what I learned there, I'm going to translate into using markers so I can use them as I graphic record in Sketchnote. So I was in Carol Dubosch's Neuland class, and these were my first sketch notes. And remember, I had never taken italic before, so I had no idea what my handwriting was influenced by. And so I was learning Neuland from Carol. And so I would walk up to the front of the room and I would watch her do a demo. And then I would go back to my chair, and we were in a room where it was a science room. So the desks had these little pockets underneath, these little shelves. And I would pull out this sketch note and I would write down everything that I could remember, and then I would put it back in. And I did this like all morning long. And I don't know if it was during a break or lunch or what, and I think Carol's on the line, so she can pipe in at any time. Someone's saying that they can't hear me. Can you hear me, Angie? Okay, super. So anyway, Carol came over to my desk and she says, what do you have under your desk there? I think she saw me, and I pulled it out, and I was really shy, and I was probably apologetic, going, I'm just taking notes. You know, I'm not going to share these with anybody. They're just mine. But they were colorful, and they had lots of drawings and pictures. And this was the way that what I was doing to remember what she was teaching. And even step by step, how she made a folded pen. I just didn't want to lose any information, right? And she held it up in front of the class, and she said, look at what Heather's doing. And she asked me, she said, can we make these available to everyone? And she made them available to everybody in the class. And at first I was like, no, they're not for anybody but me. but I was okay with it, and people were really appreciative. And throughout that time of her sharing that with people, and I think you've shared it with a few other people too, Carol, in other
Lots
classes.
of people.
Lots of people. Okay.
Yeah.
Which is totally fine by me, because I think if it's helpful.
It is.
Yeah.
They're beautiful notes.
Oh.
They're incredible. That you could take those notes and do the work in the class just blew our minds.
Well, yeah, because that's what I do. And the reason why I wanted to share that, do this class with all of you, is because over the years, I've been hearing people say, will you please teach a class for calligraphers? But I was too shy, and I didn't want to, because I'm not a calligrapher. I never saw myself as a calligrapher. And I just didn't feel like I had enough chops to really teach it. I do teach lettering specifically to visual practitioners, so graphic recorders and sketchnoters. And so it got a little bit more popular. I went to Utah, and I helped with the Greenhorn meeting, and then I went to Seattle Letters and helped with the Greenhorn meeting. And then I was at Seattle Letters when I was asked to graphic record Mike Gold in his talk. And a few months after Seattle Letters, I got a copy of Letter Arts Review in the mail, and I found out that they had published my graphic recording from that day. And I was blown away. I mean, when Christopher Calder had called me and interviewed me, that's what this whole page is before that, I thought it was going to be like a little picture like that. But he did a 2-page spread on it. And it had been my dream to someday get in Letter Arts Review. I didn't get in for my lettering. I got in for my graphic recording. And so that kind of boosted my confidence a little bit more. He called me an Emmanuel, let me see if I can say this right, an amanuensis. I don't know if I said it right, but it's the idea that a scribe is sitting at the foot of the master and taking notes. And I thought, that has got to be the best compliment that I've ever heard. And it was at Carol's folded pin class, and I think this was the second or third time I took Carol's folded pin class in Colorado, where the Colorado Calligraphy Guild asked me to teach a workshop. And we were supposed to do it this weekend in Colorado, and then tomorrow I would have taught a lettering tour where we walk around the city and look at letters and make books from them. And so when I got asked to do that and it didn't work out, I said, well, let's turn this online. And so Anne Heemstra, I believe, I think she's on the call. She helped me get the workshop that I'll be teaching next, May 16th online, and we'll send out the link with a follow-up email. But I was really excited to be able to offer this. So this is really an opportunity. When I was telling Angie that I was doing this, she's always curious about this work and has always been very supportive of my work. She asked me if we could do a mini session. So I'm very excited to be here. And I wanted to tell you a little bit about that Genesis story and show you some of my first. Yeah. Did you have a question, Angie? You'll have to unmute yourself.
Question, because it's a question in the chat. People are asking, what issue of LAR is that?
Yeah. So it looks like that is issue 32:3. 32:3. Thank you for asking that.
Okay, I'll just put that in.
So those were some of my first works. And now I'd like to show you what am I currently doing now, and also who else I've studied with. Because while I still don't consider myself a calligrapher, I do think that this might show you that just to give you some idea that your sketch notes can change. So this is a beautiful sketchbook by Neuland, the German company where I get my markers. It's Coptic bound. It comes in 4 colors, which is just glorious. And sometimes my sketch notes can be pretty sparse. There could be lots of white space. And sometimes it's literally drawing an object of whatever the instructor is talking about. I believe this was Amity Parks, and she was showing us how to use Brusho inks. And so how to make one of the little ink bottles into a shaker. And then this is Color Burst by Ken Oliver. And so just some ideas of, sometimes they don't have to be beautiful or they don't have to fill up the entire page. This is just a quick monoline pen where I'm drawing not just information that's being shared with me, but ideas and layouts and what else can I do with some of my pens. And here's another one. I spent, okay, so this is an example of, I was the keynote speaker at WorldViz in Melbourne this last fall, and the other keynote speaker, this was just a one page or one spread piece of her talk, and I distilled down about an hour of her talking into a 2-page spread. So that's about holding a lot of this information and just waiting and writing down just those key, what I call key knowledge nuggets, or key pieces that you want to remember. So sketchnotes can look like a lot of different things, and I just want to give you that confidence, because as we go into talking about what else, talking about making your own, and this is where you can go back and start sketching some more, I just want to remind you that you already have the existing skills to be a sketchnoter. You know how to work with the tools. Yes, you're probably using dip pens, but you're probably also familiar with pilot pens or other kinds of water brush or other kinds of brush pens. You're really familiar with those tools. And you're familiar with the letter forms. You already showed it in that one slide that we just created with everybody circling italic, right? And you're also probably pretty familiar with the art elements and principles. Even if you're not an artist, you know about some of those design principles that help you create great compositions, your use of color, balance, line, repetition, all of that. So while a lot of people get into the field of visuals, they don't always have these skills. In fact, they probably don't have any of these skills. They have to learn them. But what you do have to learn is listening. So let's talk a minute about what is sketchnoting. And here is something that you can, if you'd like to, you can follow along with me as I draw this out. And this could be content for the sketchnote that you're creating right now. So right now I'm just using a gray marker, and this round thing is a tool that I invented specifically for graphic recorders, but I also invented this because I couldn't make a perfect Venn diagram, and I wanted to be able to do that on the fly. So I'm going to show you how I'm going to make a perfect Venn diagram now, because this is what sketchnoting and also graphic recording is. There we go. So first off, the most important thing is it's listening. This is where the information is being shared. And then the second thing is it's synthesizing. So you are taking what you're hearing and you're turning that into something else, and you're distilling it down, you're using listening models, and you're learning all at the same time. And then the last thing is it's drawing and writing. So those are the three things. Now we also have to throw in tools, which you just saw as well. But I want to talk about what is the difference between graphic recording and sketchnoting for others, and what is sketchnoting mean to the calligrapher, the art student, the lettering artist, or what I'll call you, because I think you're all used to being called this, are scribes. So you don't have to have a tool like this. You can just make some circles. But for, in my world, a visual practitioner, a graphic recorder, or sketchnoter, meaning you're creating content for others in this case. More than half of what a graphic recorder or sketchnoter does is listening. And like I said before, they're using listening models, and they're also using their whole body to do this. And then you saw before where I said the next is synthesizing. So what does this mean? This means you're listening, you're distilling, and you're synthesizing information based on creating a product that is going to meet your client's outcomes. So that's still a pretty big part. And then the very smallest part, which is about 10%, is lettering and drawing. So it's not that much. What you're essentially creating as a graphic recorder is an artifact. That's all. Okay? But when it comes to the scribe, when it comes to the learner, you're doing more than listening. You're also actually watching. As a visual practitioner, a lot of times we're working at the wall and our back is to the audience and sometimes back to the speaker. So we have to use our whole body, our actual back, to listen. And then what's left over, almost a quarter of each one of these, is yes, you're synthesizing, but you are synthesizing not to create a product for someone else. You're synthesizing to base your learning off of. Okay, so you're really listening and watching to learn for yourself, and you're synthesizing for the same thing. And then finally, it's lettering and drawing. And this is actually larger for scribes because you're learning. And you're doing this for practice and ideation. Remember when I showed you how I kind of sketched out a few things in that last sketchbook? It's because I was trying things out. Now, you're not going to do that when you create a Sketchnote or a big graphic recording for a client. You're not going to just put your own ideas on it because you can't. You have to honor what's happening here. But for you, you get to do whatever you want. But there's also a certain level of presence that happens in all of this. So what does that mean? Well, this whole thing that you're doing as a graphic recorder, you're doing this because you have a professional role. You believe that content is king, and that's a quote by Brandy Agerbeck. So you are doing this all for someone else. But when it comes for sketchnoting with learning, your presence is much different. It's definitely more relaxed. Nobody's watching you. You're a student. But there's something really important while you're doing this is you can't allow sketchnoting to get in the way of your learning opportunity. So if it's better to stand there and watch and take notes later, do that, because you don't want to have to look up, miss something, and ask the teacher to repeat what they just did for your own notes. Don't do that. There's definitely going to take some practice, and there's going to be a balance of how much you're going to be looking at your paper and how much you're going to be watching a demo. So there is a balance there. So I want to see, are there any questions so far about what sketchnoting is? Okay, great question. So what size is this circle? Oh, that's a good question. Let's see if I have a ruler. I designed it, but I can't remember which size this one is. It's about 4 inches. And I'm working on an A4 size paper because this is a European sketchbook. Good. And then I will also put the circle template. I'll put a link to that in the chat room at the end, or we can also put it in the email. Yeah. Yes, I created it myself. I actually designed these, laser cut these, and distribute them now through Neuland. Is there a particular reason why I turn the page from left to right? Yes, I have my camera actually over here. And so if I did that, then all the pages would like hang up. And so I really had trouble with this last night. I was going through this process and I was like, oh, I feel like when left-handers have to deal with the spiral on the left and their hand always hits it. So I was noticing that every time I write, my hand's hitting it, but that's just because this can go right off, the page. Great questions. Awesome. Thank you. What other questions do you have? Is there a Neuland sketchbook available? Yes. So the one that I just showed you, that is the 4 to sketch, and they also have a smaller one that's a spiral bound black and white. Now, and I'll get to some more about that and tips and tricks. Yes, the names and the colors, the marker. Less info by the sheet. Yes. And yes, for left-handers. I'm a huge lefty fan, and I teach lefty classes. So let's talk about, let's talk a little bit about working live. And I just need to share my screen here. I want to talk a little bit about a few tips about working live. You're definitely going to want to limit your tools and your color palette. A lot of times when I'm working, I use a black, use black, gray, and one other color. That's it, because it's already hard to manage hierarchy, meaning what are you going to put emphasis on, where are you going to draw, that type of thing. So usually it's just black and one other color, and I might throw gray in there just so that I can put shadows or things like that. You're going to definitely want to choose an approach before you begin. So your composition, what kind of lettering you're going to do, that's usually you're basing it on your own handwriting, and you're going to be working on whatever lettering style you're learning in your workshop. And then what tools, again, are you going to be using, and then those colors. So definitely plan that out before you go. I think about that right along when I'm packing and I'm getting the supply list from the instructor. I'm also thinking about what do I want to take to do for my sketch notes. And then know your purpose and intention. Are these notes for yourself or for others? And remember, chances are if someone sees you make them, they're going to want you to share them. And so just be thinking about that in terms of what kind of information are you going to collect? Are you going to collect high level information just to kind of remember what happened during that day? Or are you going to focus and have your intention on some of those harder to remember things? That's really what I write down, or I spend more time really focusing on. If there's a technique that I think, oh, I don't think this teacher has a video about this, or I've never seen this before, or I'm pretty sure I'm going to forget it by the time I get back to my workspace, I definitely write those down. Another thing that you're going to want to keep in mind is your comfort level. And so a lot of times when we're working, we're wearing an apron that has pockets. And so that's helpful. You can bring a few more tools with you, a pencil, an eraser, maybe even a pencil sharpener if you need it, that type of thing. But also keep in mind, you're going to want a sketchbook that you can hold in your arm if you're standing and watching a demo. And so a lot of times I'll be holding, this is A3 size. And then the ones that I used in Carol's workshop, and actually I go back to this one a lot. This is called an art, I think it's called Art Elements. Anyway, it's 11 inches across, and it's got spiral bounding. It's got perforated sheets, which is great if I ever have to tear it out. And it's got hardback. And so that having a hard cover on it is going to help keep it really stiff when I'm working. As you can see, it completely fits in my forearm, and I can rest it up against my abdomen. So I've got my markers in my pocket, or I might even have them in my hand. And again, I might have at the max a black, and this is actually a permanent black, a color, and I try not to use Sharpies because they smell. So Olive Neuland's markers, they don't smell. A monoline pen, so this is a really thin, it's a 0.5 monoline, and then a gray art marker or brush marker. So I literally have all of these in my hands, and I'm using these one at a time and writing. And in my hand, I have programmed in my head, what am I going to draw and make small notes with? What am I going to emphasize or make larger notes with? What am I going to turn into color? And then what might I use for shadows and that type of things? Okay. All right. What are a few examples of clients who would pay for visual recording services? That's excellent. So I've been a visual recorder for 9 years now, and it's been everything from small business, large conferences. I worked for the government and started a visual practitioner team. There were 8 of us. We're called the Visioneers. So we went into governmental agencies, and we're working with change management teams to help them go through large-scale strategic visioning plans. And the list goes on and on. So lots of people pay for this. We make a pretty good day rate. Well, we used to, but now everything's digital at this point, right? So now we're using iPads and drawing apps, and we're doing the same types of things, but we've put all of our markers and pins in Ziploc bags until the pandemic's over, and we're going digital. Okay, so and then are they waterproof? So no, these markers aren't waterproof, but they don't need to be because most of what we're doing is pretty short term. Yeah, and Trina put shout out to the Visioneers. Trina is on the call. Thanks for joining, Trina. She is a Visioneer from Washington, D.C. Yeah, thank you. All right, so let me share my screen again. Sorry, we're jumping back and forth here. But those are some tips on working live. And then just wanted to remind you what you learned today. So we talked about some page composition, some of the tools of the trade, my Genesis stories. Know that you have existing skills. And remember at the beginning of the meeting when we said you might already be a sketchnoter? Well, the fact is if you've been sketchnoting this entire time, guess what? You're a sketchnoter. That's all it takes. And then what is sketchnoting and why? And then some of the tips for working live. So chances are you've written one or two or all of these things down on your sheet. I would love it if you can help me with this, Angie. What do you think? Should we do a big gallery screenshot? Looks like we've got 146 people on the line. That's awesome. So if you don't mind, hold up your sketch notes. And awesome, great. If everybody can hold up their sketch notes. Hold them up, keep them up because we're going to make a whole bunch of, I'm going to take a bunch of pictures. Great, keep them up, keep them up. I've got 13 screens here. What? That's nuts. Cool. No, keep holding them up. Hold them up, hold them up. I'm loving it. Oh, I might not get through all of these. Some of you don't have your video on either. Yep, if you still have them, thank you for holding them. Oh, keep them up, keep them up. Screen 7, you guys are doing great. Wow, this is great. All right, thank you so much, everybody, for holding that up. That was wonderful. Good. Oh, wonderful questions about sketchnoting, and is it my word? No, absolutely not. Sketchnoting is not my word. Sketchnoting was sort of, I guess, founded, I guess you would say, by Mike Rohde. And so Mike Rohde is the author of 2 books, the Sketchnote Handbook. I highly recommend this. It's a book that's actually really well done. It's wonderful paper, and it's full of, this is literally a book that you could read in a day. And it's got great examples of how to sketchnote and the very, very basic guide. He is the grandfather of sketchnoting. Mike is a good friend of mine, and he sent me both of the books. This is his other book. It's called the Sketchnote Workbook, and it's full of examples from people all over the field, including a couple of mine. And he just came out with a new sketchbook. This is unopened, so I'm going to be giving these 3 things away in my workshop on May 16th. So if you come to that, those are going to be given away along with those markers. And so sketchnoting really came from Mike Rohde. It's something that he probably could have copywritten and trademarked, but he's been so very generous. He teaches classes all over the world, and he has his own podcast called the Sketchnote Army. So you can check him out. And so yeah, that's where sketchnoting came from. Very, very kind man. Any other questions? Do you recommend a particular digital app for sketchnoting? Actually, I use Adobe Draw, but a lot of people use Procreate. And I was I hosted 6 sessions last summer for a group called the IFVP, the International Forum of Visual Practitioners. And they, each of those sessions went over different drawing apps and how to connect digitally in different ways so that you could share your sketchnoting live during a Zoom call, or if you wanted to write right on the wall, how you would show that using document cameras and different types of cameras. And so, Angie, if you don't mind, I'll put that resource, and we can add that to the follow-up email as well.
Great,
so
great.
Excellent. Yeah. What other questions do you have? Because I have a few more slides, but I want to make sure that we answer questions as well. Yep, Mike Rohde. Thank you, Angie. Okay, so now we're going to go back to the annotation screen if you would like. So I'm going to share my screen real quick. And I'm curious today, what did you learn? What will you do differently? And what are you thankful for or grateful for from this session? And this just helps me know, what have you retained? What is it you're going to use? And what's the good that I should keep? So you're welcome to either put that in the chat, write it out, type it out using the annotation. I won't be sharing the slides at the end, but it will be a part of the online course. The online course will be the result of the recording from May 16th. And I will put, I will give you the link to register for that course if you'd like. Good. These are great. You guys are fast.
Wow, this is amazing.
Yeah.
I love this.
So one of the questions is, what's the kind of camera that I use? So I'm using an IPEVO document camera. There are 3 different models. I recommend either the middle or the high model, high-end model. They're both the same, with the exception of the high-end has it's wireless and it has a battery. You don't need that. If I were to buy another one, I would have bought the one right in the middle. Wow, this is super good. I hope that you will put these into practice. Yes.
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Someone emailed or chatted to me privately, and it was asking if they could get the books from in Argentina.
Which books? The Sketchnote workbook and Sketchnote?
She just said books.
Books.
So I'm probably
right.
All of them.
Yeah. If you're talking about my book, Lettering Journey, absolutely, I ship internationally. So we can also put that information in there.
I don't think people know that you have a book. You need to tell us about that.
Well, I can tell you about that. So Lettering Journey is a book that I wrote after leaving Washington, D.C. and going across the country and seeing all the incredible lettering styles and being inspired along that trip. And these are all letters that you can write using Neuland markers. And these are really large letters. So this isn't for sketchnoting. This is really for large scale graphic recording, graphic design, or graphic facilitation. When it comes to Mike Rohde, I would say do a little bit of research. I bet you can get this book. I think it's been translated in several languages. And if you're calling from Germany, right now I'm working on the German translation of my book. So yeah, I'm pretty sure Mike Rohde's book is available everywhere, but we'll put a link. You can get it from peachpit.com, but we can also put a link in. Wow, look at all the drawings too. I'm glad to see people drawing. So just to talk a little bit about what's to come in the upcoming course, I will be teaching specific drawing techniques that are fast and easy. Some of you may really know how to draw well. Those of you that might be a little scared about it, this is a different technique than what most sketchnoting teachers will teach you, but it's really for the learner. It's really for the calligrapher or someone who's learning on the fly. Okay, then this is just crazy. So I'm gonna go ahead and save this. It's awesome. And oh my gosh, I'm also gonna need to take a picture of it. I think I'm accidentally drawing on the page too. This is hilarious. Okay. Good. I'm so glad you learned so much. I'm so glad you're going to take this with you. And I'm going to clear this for now. So if you can, you can stop drawing and I'll go to the next slide. Great. So I just want to thank Angie for hosting this session. It's been so fun working with all of you. She's got such a wonderful vision and is so caring and has done so much for all of us. So if we can give a big, we do this online. This is our round of applause. If everybody can give Angie a big round of applause. And also want to thank Carol Dubois. I give her so much credit for everything that I've done in terms of lettering, because she really changed the trajectory of my career by putting a pen in my hand. So that's Carol's website there. And this bit.ly site that's at the very bottom is a video about Carol that helped me understand that there was a teacher out there that was for me. And so if you could quickly write that down and watch it later, I watch it frequently and I still get all teared up. So thank you, everybody. I got to take a picture of this page too, because you guys are all graffiti artists as well.
Want to pick numbers now? Is it time to do our little?
Yeah. Let's stay in touch. I want to leave this up for just a minute. If anybody wants to grab that link, it's the bit.ly link, Learn to Sketchnote, all lowercase.
Yeah, take a screenshot of it.
Yeah, you can take a screenshot of it. We can also share this with everybody as well. And then please keep in touch. Follow me on Instagram or check out my website. I teach online lettering courses. And yeah, let's go ahead and pick 3 numbers. Are you ready?
Yes, I need you to pick. Now, some people had to cancel. So, and some of these people aren't on the call.
Right.
But we have, I want you to pick between number 7 and number 244.
Whoa. Okay, so let's do 88.
Okay, so 88. Now winner must be present.
Okay.
So let's see.
This is fun.
Sue Groon, I think
Is Sue
I
Groon on?
saw her here.
You can do a quick search in the chat.
Sue, are you still here?
Sue, is she from Prosper? There's two
No.
Sues.
I know. Sue.
Uh-oh.
Sue.
Oh, now we had them change their names.
Okay, I know she's good at this is not a good thing.
Okay, so everybody put your name back in. This is your test. Put your name back in there so we can find you. Let me give you another number.
You know how to rename yourself, and you.
Yeah, and if you're here,
picture.
put it in the chat room. Say, I'm here, I'm here.
See 44.
No, Shannon wants me to pick 44.
Oh.
Why don't we do 144?
Well, I don't think I see Sue Brunin.
That's okay. Let's do 144. We'll write down the numbers and the names, and
okay,
they'll find it. We'll
144 is. Bear with me. 144. Tim, Robin.
Robin?
Robin Tim.
Okay, Robin Tim.
Robin Tim, sorry.
Okay. If Robin, if you're here, either unmute yourself. Oh, you can't unmute. Just let us know in the chat room.
I can make it so we can unmute everyone now.
Okay, Sue just said she was present. I just got a private message.
Fantastic.
Okay.
Is Robin
here? Is Robin here? Okay, let's pick another number in the meantime.
Okay.
What am I supposed to go up to?
244.
Let's do 222. I like master numbers.
Okay. David Gasser.
Oh, David! Yay! I get to send you some markers.
Puerto Rico.
And I know he's here because I responded to him at the beginning of the call.
I know.
And then is Robin still here?
I don't know if Robin's here. Right, yes, Robin is here. It says Dixie says she's here, but Robin needs to say she's here.
Yeah, that's right. All right. I love what you guys are. You're just graffitiing all over. This is so awesome. I love this.
Look at all the hearts.
Oh my God. I don't know why I was so scared to get on today's call.
Oh, you're great. And we are what a gift to have you be serving us. I mean, really, what a service to give this all your knowledge and your creativity. And you are the bomb, baby.
Oh, you're sweet.
I'm so thrilled to even be a part of all this. And on the 16th, you're going to do this for 6 hours and really get into this. So it's going to be so amazing.
Really hands-on. So everything that I I shared with you today, we're going to go into it in more depth, lots more exercises, a lot more interaction. So we'll be doing more annotated screens, group breakouts, and other things like that. And plenty of breaks during the day. We're going to break every hour and a half, and we will break for an hour or about an hour to 45 minutes, depending on what the group wants for lunch. And so there's going to be plenty of breaks. We're going to have energizers and lots of great practices. I do a lot of online virtual trainings and facilitations and graphic recordings. So I'll be using all the best practices to make sure we stay healthy and learn tons. So yeah.
Awesome.
Yes.
So I'm going to unmute everyone to say, thank you. We love you. Ready?
Yes.
Okay, it's supposed to do it. I don't know.
Thank you, Heather.
Thank you.
Heather.
Pasta Cat class is free.
Thank you.
Germany. Thank you.